Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sterling Live. My name is Caitlin Brower. I am Sterling's Director of PR and Social Media and your host of Sterling Live. I'm really excited today. As you can see, I have two guests above me right here, and we've got a great episode. So I will not wait any longer. I will go ahead and introduce the two of them. So today we have Evangeline Lopez. She's been on Sterling Live before, but she's our Client Success Practice Leader for Staffing here at Sterling. And we also have Melissa Harding, Managing Director for Global Partnerships for Talent Solutions TAPFIN. And as you can see on the bottom of our screen, this is our topic for today. We've got a great story to tell about Sterling and TAPFIN partnering for success and how, we help TAPFIN navigate background screening for contingent workforce management. So again, so excited to, get through today's episode. We've got a lot of great content. So I'll have my guests now introduce themselves to our audience. So Evangeline, welcome back to Sterling Live. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, glad to be here today and really excited to be joined by Melissa and thank her for her time here today with us. But again, I am the staffing practice leader here at Sterling, and what that means is I help to support all of our client success partners as well as our client success associate teams that really manage the day-to-day partnerships and relationships with our clients. My role is more to step in, on the back end and help support them, be strategic, be thinking about what our clients' needs are from more of a leadership perspective and helping support in any way that I can.
Thank you. And welcome back. We appreciate you coming back on Sterling Live for another episode. Melissa, welcome to Sterling Live, your first time here, but hey, you can always come back. I always put that out there. Can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely. So Melissa Harding, I'm the Managing Director at Global Partnerships at TAPFIN. I've been in the staffing and HR tech industry for several decades. I won't age myself too much there, but very excited to be joining Sterling. I have been responsible for helping build a partnership ecosystem here at TAPFIN, and Sterling's a perfect example of how that works for us, and we can leverage that for our customers. A little bit about myself, besides the staffing expertise, is I do live in Indiana. And so I just wanted to say, if you haven't heard, we're getting Caitlin Clark, just a small little thing that is being announced this week. So great to join you guys and looking forward to the conversation.
I love it. And I will say, with the rise of Caitlin Clark's popularity, I've been told that I look like Caitlin Clark. So I guess it's a name thing. I know. I mean, a little bit I see it, but I had to tie that in there. So no, it is me, Caitlin Brower, not Caitlin Clark. But yes, I do think you're our first guest from Indiana too. So I love this. I want to take a moment real quick. If you're watching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, if you have questions for Evangeline or Melissa throughout the episode, please go ahead and put them in the comment section across all three of these social media platforms, and I will get them over to these two as I see fit throughout the episode. Let's go ahead and get into it. So I've got a bunch of questions here. The goal really today, Melissa, is to share that story between the two organizations, and Evangeline coming in and sharing a lot of the aspects from, Sterling's perspective as well. I want to start with, the role of managed service providers and then some industry highlights that we're seeing. So Melissa, can you tell us a little bit about the unique needs of managed service providers and, the complexities there?
Yeah, so just to take it back, if you think about the role of an MSP, we're an expert firm that a client will hire to do a certain process, or that they'll outsource, they'll do remotely or through a third party. TAPFIN is unique in our MSP services where we manage most of contingent workforce. So that could be anywhere from hiring contract labor, which Sterling definitely partners with us to do. We also work on talent sustainability. We work on upskilling within that organization and other advisory services. So we're known, right, for putting, I hate to say it, butts in seats, but there's so much more that we offer to our customers. What's been really unique within our industry, and there's so so many examples of this just recently, and I know we're going to get hopefully into some of those in our conversation, is that our clients need to be focusing on their core business. We're all a little bit leaner. We're all doing a few jobs. And so being able to outsource this function to an expert like TAPFIN helps our customers then focus more internally on what they need to do. So I think about like an IT manager that's looking to hire a resource. They have to reach out to their suppliers. They have to schedule interviews. They've got to talk about the job. Think about all those hours that have been a time suck for that organization, that when outsourcing through TAPFIN, that person could focus on maybe a release or a product that can be out in the market. So I think that's where we are really uniquely fit in the space for businesses, is they can focus on their core function and we can focus on how they manage that workforce.
So
and
really,
I think,
go ahead.
I was going to say what's interesting about what Melissa just shared is then that's where we come in, right? Because we're the experts in the background screening space. And so they rely on us to help fulfill that process on their behalf. So very like models in some ways.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that was a really good overview, Melissa. And I think, Evangeline, you're right. A lot of people tuning in will probably see those similarities there. So with that overview, diving into a little bit more, what are some of the common challenges that a managed service providers face?
I think the major common challenge is, how do we innovate? How do we continue to bring new services to organizations and customers? I think when I look at some of the places that I've worked for previously, I think that's, again, where TAPFIN brings a lot of innovation. We don't focus on trying to enhance, or not maybe enhance, but just extend additional services. We focus on that partner ecosystem, connecting customers as a consultant to people that are experts in their field. And I think that's just, we could be watered down, right, through acquisition, or we could be watered down by adding additional services that aren't part of our core competency, or we can lean into experts like Sterling. Just to share a little background, like life without Sterling was literally working with 50 to 60 suppliers within a customer, relying on them to navigate background checks, hoping and praying that they got the package correctly. I think about being in delivery and operations. I would constantly call suppliers, have they passed yet, have you passed that? All that time and efficiency, when we can standardize that within a program and have all of our suppliers using the same tool, and that's what Sterling really helps us do. Again, we can focus, just like our customers, on what we do best, which is coming up with creative solutions, doing other process efficiencies, other ways to optimize their workforce. Maybe they want to do upskilling. These are all the things that our delivery team and operations team and engagement team can drive from a conversation perspective, because they're not out there calling suppliers to see if something's passed or auditing, because we've got our partner Sterling behind the scenes doing that for us.
You had mentioned earlier the, contingent workforce, and that's how, TAPFIN shows up. What are the other, key roles that TAPFIN has in this industry?
So I think we're an outsourced third-party expert. I think about it as a way of, we all have that friend. Let me put it in this perspective. We all have that friend that we go to because they research everything. I don't know if it's any of us on this call. It's not me, but I have that friend. And so if I want to get a fridge, if I want to get a microwave, I go to him because he's spent years, right, researching, literally years. So customers can, if we think about TAPFIN, we're in that same space. We're researching who's the best in the industry within their various components, whether that be vendor management systems, whether that be direct sourcing, whether that be background check companies. We're not relying on the hype or the sales pitch. We're actually consulting internally and saying, who is that best customer or company that we can partner with? And so our clients get to leverage, one, us at scale, and two, that expertise and research that we've already done. So we're like a one-stop shop, if that makes sense, in terms of understanding who the best is, what those standards are, what the SLAs are, what can be met, cycle times that are important. So I think that's one of the things that we also do as a service is I think about the fact that our direct sourcing tech, when we did RFIs, we were actually out there testing in their tool. Not everyone does that. So I think that's where our clients can really rely and our prospects can really rely that we've done our homework.
To close out, this part of our conversation, I'm curious to what trends you're seeing in the industry right now and kind of where you see TAPFIN being involved in those trends.
I think every organization is two things: a sales organization, right? You always hear that internally, that everyone's selling, from the person answering the phone in the door to the person who's delivering a service. We're always selling. The second thing that we're seeing is we're all technology organizations, right? We're sitting on a LinkedIn Sterling Live where we all have to dive into different levels of technology. What we're seeing is our clients are driving us to be faster, better, and more automated. Where can we bring digital solutions? We always hear about AI, but when we think about Sterling, we had a challenge around an integration that was necessary for our customers. What that did for TAPFIN is our team members could actually see the progress of someone's background check. And again, it goes back to that story. We weren't having to pick up the phone and seeing if it's done yet, where they're at, what's going on. We could see that real time. So there's a lot of challenges within our industry right now to become more automated, to enhance those processes through digitalization. And so that's some of the big trends. I think for us, we're embracing more of our role within providing those integration conversations, we're becoming more of a system integrator, we're becoming more of an implementation partner. We're definitely a cost savings than the traditional SIs that are out there. And so I always joke that we're a people business, but I think from an industry perspective, we're that people and tech business now. Evangeline, I don't know if you would add anything.
Yeah, I think going to your point on, always being a sales organization, and how we help support TAPFIN and like clients is making sure you all are aware and feel well supported and educated going out and having those conversations with your clients. Because ultimately, like you said, you're selling Sterling or some of your other partners, and making sure that everyone is aligned. So that's part of, our responsibility as, your partner. But also, I think, to your point, thinking about ways that we can help our clients be innovative through technology. And, you mentioned integrations absolutely being a large part of that. But yeah, I think, we're continuing to look at different ways to leverage technologies and things that we have available to make things quicker, faster, better for you and for your clients.
So we've set the stage with, an overview of managed service providers. We've talked about the trends we're seeing within the industry, a little bit of a deeper dive into TAPFIN, which is great. So you mentioned a little bit of the story around TAPFIN and Sterling, but I definitely want to get into that more and really give that nice overview story to our audience here. So I know that both of you will have a lot of good responses for these questions. So yeah, the TAPFIN and Sterling partnership. So Melissa, as a managed service provider, what were you looking for when choosing, selecting your background screening partner?
I think one of the big things is quality. And when we're evaluating partners, like most organizations, we start with 2 or 3 partners and we see who rises to the top. So quality, global reach, footprint is important. That innovation. And then it's almost like, how do you say, it's like that pixie dust on top, right? It's who do you want to be in the trenches with? Who do you trust when things get tough? Being honest and transparent. I think about some of the challenges that we've had, and I know we don't want to talk about the C word, COVID, but we had to navigate things that we've never witnessed before with a pandemic. And I think Evangeline hit it head on. We were getting reports from them, messages from the team. They were providing us and keeping us up to date with what they were hearing from a legislative perspective. We were comparing notes. And I think that was a huge example of how our partnership grew, because it wasn't just about coming in and saying, how do we get more market share? How do we go across all your programs, TAPFIN? It was a conversation of, how do we do better? How can we bring more quality to the existing programs that you have? How do we increase cycle time? So, I mean, approaching the tough subjects is huge for us. It's not hiding under the desk when things get tough. It's about being upfront, and we know that it's not been perfect, right? We've had some bumps in the road. Everyone has bumps in the road, but I think it's that, like I said, the kind of that secret sauce on top, which is trusting that our partner will speak up and let us know. And so Sterling checks all the boxes from the reach perspective, from the quality perspective. And then it's that extra X factor, I guess is what I would call it. That really is one of the reasons that we decide one partner versus another when all the other features and functionality are even, right, Caitlin? It's that X factor that you can't explain.
I always have these light bulb moments on Sterling Live when someone says something so brilliant and so amazing. I love the X factor comment, that, and what you said, the extra X factor of what Sterling delivers. You outlined, a couple different points, couple different things that we help you with, that we partner with on, but that extra motivation there, that extra thing. So really, really love that. That was my light bulb moment for this episode. So hopefully maybe a couple more will go off, but so I think the audience, it would be beneficial to hear a little bit more about TAPFIN's corporate and operational strategy. And I think that would be helpful because then we can understand, how does Sterling tie into that strategy for your team?
Yeah, and I kind of hit on this a little bit before. We're not looking to water ourselves down through acquisition or trying to increase several new departments, or, a client needs background check companies, let's go do that. Or a client needs global payrolling. Maybe that's, something that we should become experts in. We recognize where our strengths are, and then we look for partners. So I think from a corporate strategy, we really look at how do we build that ecosystem? How do we introduce other organizations, like-minded organizations, core valued, similar organizations to help with our customers? I think about it as being very intentional. I think I did another conversation a couple weeks ago and talking about neutrality being dead. So all my staffing partners that are on here, I'm sorry to say, but we don't have to be necessarily neutral, right? We can be intentional. We can say that these top 6 suppliers we want to recommend into each and every program because they're willing to be niche. The other thing that's really core to our values is increasing access to other partners and organizations that may not always have that opportunity. So when you think about an MSP and you go into a national organization, they may have 100 different suppliers, and they may have entrenched relationships with all these various departments. When you bring in a managed service provider like TAPFIN, it kind of levels that playing field. A small firm in Indiana that may only know these managers now have access to opportunities across an organization. That's reducing their cycle time, their cost of sale. They don't have to expand with that organization. And then, like I said, that leveling that playing field. So that helps us with our diversity goals that we have with organizations and other suppliers. We see those partners becoming niche for us. They're standing out. They don't have to have the biggest, largest corporate branch or send people to Vegas, because at the end of the day, it's the quality that they provide. It's the service that they provide. And that sometimes gets missed if you don't have someone that's really focused on creating opportunity that's equal for everyone.
Well, I think it's great that we fit so well into this strategy. I will say that too, on a lot of these episodes that we have where we're bringing on, other clients, partners, even just talking about internal processes at Sterling, we really do look for that fit. Like you had just said, it has to fit in multiple different ways. And if that's your strategy as an organization, we need to be able to match it. And we need to be able to be a true partner to what you're trying to accomplish. So love that. I love always hearing that story because I know it's critical to our business and what we pin as success for, being partners with our clients. I know earlier you had mentioned, from a challenge standpoint, it was the constant picking up the phone. You had some integration challenges. Was there any challenges that you were facing before you partnered with Sterling? Just, naming a couple that might be helpful for our staffing audience to hear.
I think the first thing that we ran into is every staffing supplier, without Sterling being kind of mandated within our program, could choose whoever the background check company that they wanted. And so not everyone's got the quality, right? Not everyone's got the speed, the cycle time. So it just created a lot of variability within our programs. And our role is to help get those butts in seats, quality consultants in a timely fashion. And so there was just so much variability for our teams. Individuals were waiting on high school transcripts. There just wasn't, I just can't even explain to you the amount of complexity, the risk, all of those things, just letting it be up to chance that was happening before we would mandate a Sterling program across our clients. And we had to kind of go back and convince them, like, why do we want to work with a stranger upon a stranger upon a stranger, right? So they would say, well, we hate that mandate word. There's a lot of organizations that hate the M word, right? The mandate word, but there's so many benefits behind that in terms of reducing risk, mitigating those costs. A supplier can, again, leverage our economies of scale with Sterling. They may not get that same package price out there on their own. So everyone's looking for cost savings. But that was really the world before. If you can just imagine across our clients, every single country, every location, every supplier could kind of choose their own, which is just opens up a whole lot of opportunity for human error.
Can you provide a little bit more detail? You talked about timing and turnaround times are obviously critical right now, or they're critical all the time. So can you touch on that a little bit more, of that importance for the turnaround time for a candidate to, like you said, you're filling seats. So what is the importance there, and kind of how did Sterling come in and help from that aspect?
So there's if we think about what's been happening in our global economy, right? And we look at record low unemployment rates. Every candidate would have 2 or 3 offers. And so we talked about this, Evangeline, on our last call, which is the staffing industry. We want this opportunity that we're presenting, or our supplier is presenting, to be the one they accept. And so we look polished and professional when we can do that on a timely basis. They accept our opportunity. If there's 2 or 3 options and we're still in background checks and the other one has offer, we lose that candidate, which we lose that opportunity, we lose that revenue, and that's not good for any of our end customers. So I hope that kind of helps you. It's like that cycle time is so critical. When you're looking for a job and people don't respond for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, you start to lose interest. Or you have another opportunity that's been presented that's quicker. So that's where I think our partnership is so critical, and our suppliers need to rely on us driving that together as a team to help them get more wins as well.
Yeah, we ran a study.
Very much. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think that's very much, I won't say unique in the background screening space, but I think certainly within the staffing world, we hear and see and feel that so much more present probably than some of the other spaces and industries do. And I think, while certainly having a quick turnaround time experience for your candidate is super important in the process, also having a similar experience with whoever is helping to support you. Like Melissa said, going back to, she knows she can pick up the phone and call her client success partner and get an answer right away, or a very quick response in emails and that sort of thing, which we pride ourselves in doing, and supporting, internal turnaround times as well, if you will.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Yeah, we did a study a couple years back, and it was shocking to see like how many job seekers were openly just leaving the hiring process for organizations. And one of the main things we had found was that it was taking too long. And you're trying to get people to work, and people are trying to start a new job. So there is that constant we're seeing there. And listen, the study was done like 2-3 years ago, but it's clearly still relevant today, that people are probably still exiting because of, taking way too long. I need to start a job. I need to make money, things like that. So turnaround times, critical. You'd mentioned that. Another critical component is compliance, and we hear that all the time. So how does compliance play a role in the background screening process for TAPFIN?
How does it play a role? It's keeping our names out of the news. No, compliance
Great
is
answer.
really right. Keeping it out of the news. I think compliance is one of the things that, again, goes back to that X factor, that secret sauce, that trust, that the processes that we've outlined in implementation or between our partnerships are actually going to be executed. We have several industries. If you think about pharma, if you think about healthcare, other industries, that those things are super critical. I remember onboarding a customer that had drivers, right? So we have to know that when we're putting someone behind the seat of a truck, that they don't have things that are going to put the greater good, the greater population at risk. So compliance is day in and day out for us. And again, some of these programs, if we go back to that scenario of every supplier having it, when we get audited or the client needs to get an audit, can you imagine reaching out to 60 suppliers with 60 different background check companies to see? And there's, again, that human error, that opportunity for mistakes that could happen. And so I think compliance is that's what we're trusted to do. When you ask me, like, what are some things that TAPFIN does for customers, they trust us to onboard and be compliant. When there's changes in a state around, say, marijuana testing, or it's been legalized, we need to be up to speed with that. We need to be proactive with that. We need to be able to change packages with a very quick turnaround. So that's one of the things they trust us to be from an expert perspective. We've got that from an onboarding, how we're selecting and sourcing talent. And Sterling's a big piece of that when it comes to ensuring that we're doing what we say we're going to do.
Yeah. And I think to piggyback off of that, I mean, that's certainly an area where Sterling puts a very high value, and making sure that we're helping our clients stay compliant, that there's consistency, not just with maybe like different juris changes, but like you said, larger issues that may be coming to the table, and making sure, one, that you feel, Melissa, educated on what's happening, and then what your options are, and then us being able to, like you said, quickly flip switches where needed, to make adjustments so that, if we're no longer, it's not permissible in this state or this place to screen for this, we're extracting, those sorts of searches from a background check and that type of thing. So it's a beautiful and delicate dance, I will say. But we're fortunate to have, individuals within our organization that is their role, is to focus on those updates and changes, and then making sure that we're also advocating for our clients, because it is getting, in many different places, it's getting more and more challenging to screen for certain things that are important to our clients for good reason. And so making sure that, we have boots on ground, so to speak, lobbying for getting as much information as possible to be a part of an effective and accurate background screen to make a hiring decision.
So to wrap up this part of the conversation, I'm curious at what does the relationship look like right now, current state, with Sterling and, the program, owners, managers?
Well, I know we're at 8 years in our partnership. We've onboarded over 150 suppliers at this point, and ongoing. We have so many good internal stories to tell, that we are recommending Sterling from a global perspective. I actually attended several Sterling Lives myself, and as a customer, trying to understand and keep up with all the services that are being offered. We're being challenged so much around identification, which is one thing I didn't mention before. So I think this, you're just going to continue to see how we push this partnership into other organizations and use the mandate word, because what we're seeing is just huge success with our clients.
Yeah. And I think to that point, also, one of the things that Melissa mentioned earlier, which I really appreciate about our specific relationship, is not shying away from some of those more difficult conversations, because that allows us to really understand at the core of what TAPFIN does, what their needs are, and how do we solution and partner going forward for those. I mean, we don't always have an answer, a perfect answer, but we certainly, look at ways that, again, we can be innovative, think outside of the box, create and build solutions that will help streamline processes and, drive our partnership forward ultimately.
Well, clearly TAPFIN is a great client, but you guys are also fans of Sterling Live. So that makes you even greater, in my opinion. Keep attending the episodes. I really appreciate that. So I've got a couple of more questions for the both of you. One of the topics that we like to cover, because it's very informative for organizations out there that might be nervous to implement a new program. That change journey can be a hard conversation, or even just a hard thought for some people to have. So let's talk about the implementation process. So what did that look like for TAPFIN to bring on Sterling?
Well, I think honestly, it's around that competitive analysis. So it goes back to that. We look at who's best in the market, who's bringing best in breed, who's growing, who's evolving, what's that innovation. So even in my role where we have established partnerships, and we ask them for more information. We have them requalify the relationship. We make sure that what we feel and think is real, and so that gets tested. So from an onboarding perspective, just know that we've already done that homework. We've already done that evaluation. So then every time a customer is coming to us and they're saying we want a global partner, and we're seeing that more and more, a global pack, we want a standard candidate experience. We want a standard process for all of our organizations, all of our locations, all of our skill sets. That's where we come to Sterling and we say, let's identify where you have the gold star service. Where do we maybe have a silver star? And so that's where those honest conversations come into play, so that we can design the right program. And maybe there needs to be a backup in a certain location until we're able to build things up. Again, that's what we really appreciate. From a supplier perspective, you're known already in the industry, so that's not a hard conversation to have. And so within the onboarding process, we're talking about this program. We're talking about the benefits that I've already discussed with the suppliers. And so that onboarding becomes super quick and effective. And then the clients already see, right, that cost savings that they get by having that trusted advisor, that quicker time to fill, because we have a standardized process. We share a standard RACI between our organizations. We know each other's capabilities, and we're just getting more and more demand, like I said, for global programs, something that's standardized across the globe, across every location, which is something I don't think we really felt 2 or 3 years ago. Before COVID, I think COVID really helped the globe become smaller, in my opinion. And so we're just getting a lot more demand for that.
Yeah, and I think something that's sort of unique again in staffing is that staffing clients, they choose us every day. Not that other clients don't, but many will sign a long-term contract. But with staffing, it's a little bit different because it's not a one and done implementation process. We're implementing new supplier accounts, like that process. I mean, I say every single day, it probably is for some of our clients. And so it continues not just from, that initial, okay, we're going to make a larger change decision within our organization with a new partner, but continuing that process and building and expanding upon it throughout the term of the partnership.
Yeah, one other thing that I would add is I kind of go back to, well, what if you didn't? Right, Caitlin? Yeah. So like, if you think about you're exploring in the market, should I bring on an MSP? Should I bring on a standardized background check customer? And it goes back to that lean, we're all getting lean, right? If an organization hired the staff that we collectively have internally to service them, it would be astronomical. To find the expertise, I'm not saying just the headcount, but to have the collective expertise that we have within TAPFIN and we have within Sterling, I mean, the cost would be astronomical. And so it goes back to, why not just trust a resource that does this? I like what you said, day in and day out, because it really is day in and day out. Because the amount of upskilling you would have to do in your organization, the amount of research you would have to do to stay up on those trends, the amount of extra people. I mean, I'm all for, looking where you have core functions in your organization or experts in your organization and leverage that. But to me, if you're a manufacturing company or a product company, trust the experts, trust the folks that do this day in, day out. You'll see trends within your market, within your industry, things that you can't even think about purchasing right out in that market.
Yeah, it's clear that, Sterling and TAPFIN have very open communication with suppliers and going and presenting, the strengths from both organizations. You had mentioned the RACI documents, which is great. I think very much our audience will appreciate to hear that. I know too, probably the staffing community is probably like, yes, the two of them get us. It is an everyday thing. So I thought that was a great point to raise to Evangeline. So with Evangeline on the call, she is our, practice leader for staffing. So I want to dive into, kind of the client success and the relationship, with your client success partners to give our audience a little bit more information there. So can you tell us a little bit more of, the interactions you have with Sterling's client success team?
So we have several opportunities of support within our Sterling relationship. We're unlike a lot of customers because we're like a cohort of customers, right? Just based on what we do. So every one of them is a little bit different. And so every client has a different need. And so we have all these program teams under each customer, and each of them has the opportunity to reach out and feel connected to Sterling. They understand what package was created for that client, what is happening within that industry and that vertical, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I think the response time is amazing. Over the last couple of years, we've been represented by folks that come from our industry. I'm one of those people that left the industry and staffing industry, went out into HR tech and was able to service our industry as an expert. And I've seen that alignment work really, really well with our relationship with Sterling. So Evangeline, I'm sure you have way more to add.
Yeah, well, no, and I think, certainly there's been change over 8 years within both our organizations. And I think, addressing that and working together and understanding, and we'll continue to evolve and change how we support our clients over the years. But as Melissa shared, I think just understanding these different programs, respecting that, TAPFIN is supporting many industries. And that's one thing that we, again, back to being unique about staffing, is that it's not just, oh, well, we're manufacturing and, oh, we're technology. So the beauty of partnering with Sterling is because we do have all these other practice areas, if you will, at the tip of our fingertips for access and knowledge and support and that sort of thing. I can go to Melissa and say, here's what I'm hearing from the manufacturing or the transportation sector. Here's what's top of mind for them. Here's some of the best practices, things you should be thinking about, making sure a part of the background checks that are being run and that sort of thing. So I think, yeah, it comes together very nicely from a client support perspective.
100%.
That's a great, yeah. No, I was gonna say that's a great segue into my last question, because Evangeline, you mentioned, seeing trends within other industries. Would it make sense to bring it over to TAPFIN and talk about it? We are meeting with our clients frequently to, go over what we're seeing, whether it's in the industry or it's, this is what your background screening program looked like for the last 6 months. Let's evaluate, let's look, sometimes there are hard conversations you have to have. So with that being said, are there any, particular like reviews or reports that you and your team are finding really helpful from Sterling?
So if that question's for me, I think the biggest thing
Yes.
for us is, So we constantly, and I would say this on a monthly and quarterly basis, we pull analytics. We have proprietary big data. I mean, it goes back to that technology role that we play. What Sterling helps us with is understanding how we're using what we're using, what it's looking like from a cycle time perspective, location stalls. I mean, that's huge. If we know we're going to have a ramp for a customer in June in Memphis, Sterling's already proactively showing us where we're seeing lags within that market, where we're seeing, by industry type, by where we're ordering. I mean, those things they're just critical. And one of the big things that helps us is in the sales cycle. We just had this week. We're looking at a global customer and they're saying, here are the locations. What would that look like? And that's what we partner with them on. And it's not just pricing, it's cycle time. It's where our expertise is, what's happening within those areas in terms of legislature. It's just a critical partnership from a pre-sales, from a current customer. It helps us prepare on those QBRs. I think we've even had some joint QBRs. I think we've also had some situations where we had Sterling come in as a subject matter expert for our customers to talk to them. So I think those are some of the wonderful reporting and analytics that we get from Sterling. And it really helps us, again, be a consultant to our customers.
Yeah. And I think a lot of clients, hopefully are leveraging some of the tools that we've made available on demand. We have data out of our ears, so we can provide as much or as little as our clients like to see and know and understand. And like I said, I think providing some of that insight from a benchmarking perspective, having those conversations is really critical and key to the success of our clients' programs as well.
Yeah, it's great to really see how dynamic and powerful, the certain things that we're able to provide and to sit down together and really collaborate. Because at the end of the day, it really is for the success of the client. So again, really powerful to hear a lot of the different things that you're working on with Sterling. I think that's great. So I want to take a quick second here. Again, if you are watching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, if you have any final questions for Evangeline or Melissa, please go ahead and put them in the comment section, as we wrap up today's episode. So while we wait for any additional questions to come in, because those are all the questions I had for the two of you, I would love to just wrap up with some final thoughts. It could be around, what we discussed today, anything that you're really looking to leave our audience with. So Evangeline, I will start with you on some final thoughts.
Yeah. So I think, again, if you're listening to this today and you're on the fence about maybe looking for a new partner or that sort of thing, it's worth exploring, as Melissa shared, for various reasons. And, whether it's streamlining processes, cost perspective, global support, turnaround times, we're happy to help any of those conversations, bring some light. For our current clients that have listened in, perhaps something has piqued your interest and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that Sterling does this or can do this. Let us know how we can also help implement potentially some of the things that Melissa shared today into your programs.
That's great. Thank you. Melissa, final thoughts from today's episode.
I have to echo what Evangeline just said. If you're listening today and you have any questions, or you're thinking about how do we potentially outsource this, or contingent labor, contract labor is such a strain on our organization, or we're going to change our workforce mix and we really need to go out and hire more contractors, and you don't know where to start, that's where we really shine from it. We don't have to be the MLP, we can be that consultant. And then if I could just also echo the fact that, again, we look to build a very strong partnership ecosystem within TAPFIN. Our focus is to highlight and let partners like Sterling shine. And so if you have a program of ours today and you think, gosh, Melissa brought up some great points and we really should look to maybe mandate this across the board and get away from what we're doing today, we'd love to talk to you more about that and how we've reduced cycle time and better candidate and supplier experiences doing that. And I really appreciate your guys' time and being able to join today.
Likewise, I was going to say thank you, Melissa, for being here, for, opening up some of your organization, giving some insight as to how you all operate and think about and navigate what you do. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Incredible conversation. And to reiterate what, the two of you just said, reach out if you are watching and you have questions, you want to talk further for either both TAPFIN or Sterling, please reach out. We'll definitely happy to have those conversations for sure. So at this time, we don't have any further questions, but I want to take the time to thank our audience. We've had a very busy month of April with Sterling Live. We are not done. We have one more episode to wrap up the month on Monday. But again, I always, thank you to our audience. Very thankful tuning in live, watching on demand. Really appreciate it. I could not do it without my guests. So thank you, Evangeline and Melissa, so much for a very powerful conversation in regards to Sterling and TAPFIN. I loved listening to our story today, and I know our audience really appreciates you sharing everything. So with that being said, again, thank you, everyone, and thank you to the two of you for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.